Okay, so this ended up being a really kind of strange video, but one I enjoyed making because I made three great memes. I redid the Hammer Guy meme. I made a separate meme with Candace Owens and Mitch, whatever his name is, Snow. Greetings, brothers and sisters. So this is Tuesday, January 6th. I started this video on Monday, but then I had some leftover things to do Monday night for my Tuesday video, so I hope I got all my clips together. But I got these memes I have at the end of the video, and pretty psyched about it. So I also have a voiceover here. I'm not even sure what it's about, but I'm sure it's excellent. So, so here we go. Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. This is the introduction to my video for Wednesday, the 7th of June, I believe. Today is Monday, June 5th. And I had a few comments I want to address here. Let me read both these comments first, and then I will, if these are the two comments. The first one says, that's not it. That's not it either. Here's the first comment. Are you still banning people who say you never had the fake COVID pox? And I will come back to that guy in a moment. That's from my Apocalypse Now channel, which I'm posting videos on. I would have posted one yesterday, Tuesday, which I have not done yet. And the other one is, you missed the most important part. Trump, that's not Trump's voice. That's not Trump. It's a fake Trump. I want to know where Trump is. And so both of these comments have something in common. And that is that they are red fucking flags, right? They are red fucking flags. And I wanted to address it here because it's kind of interesting, right? And so let's go with the first comment here, the COVID comment. And so are you still banning people who say you never had the fake COVID pox? Now, I had COVID, and I don't care if you believe it or not. So this was back when I named these people the flu bees, right? I had the QBs. They were newbies who were QB, they're newbies to the truth community, and they're second time in terms of incarnating as people. They don't have abstract thought. A lot of them. Like some of them are smart. Like some of them are just, whatever. It's a psychological issue, not an intelligence one, or a need to belong, social issue, something. But the flu bees were a follow up. They were like the flat earthers and these people, and they said that COVID never existed. And I might have been at least inclined to believe that as a possibility until I got COVID 3 times, right? And it sucked. And, this person said, are you still banning people who say you never had the fake COVID pox? Imagine if I had cancer or, or they said, oh, you didn't have a migraine. When somebody tells you you are either faking, which is, either I'm faking it and lying about it, COVID, or I don't know what's going on with my own body. And I just had the flu and I just don't know any fucking better, right? And so that was, of course I would ban you. And the reason I'm banning you is because you just don't say shit like that to people, right? You don't, you can believe whatever you want to believe, but you don't say shit like that because you don't know. You don't know if there's a fake COVID or not because you didn't fucking have it. Or if you did have it, it wasn't severe enough. But what I had with COVID, it's interesting because I'm doing a cleanse. My wife and I are doing a parasite cleanse, which again, I'm not recommending anything. And I went to bed last night, Sunday night, and I felt okay. The cleanse was going fairly well. Like I didn't feel much. We didn't feel like, when you kill parasites, the issue is always turning them into toxins, right? So if you have parasites in your body, which everybody does, it turns them into toxins, and you have to find a way to get rid of them because the toxins become the problem, right? You're killing organisms in your body that are not great organisms to start with, and And no matter what, it turns into toxicity, right? So there's living things that are now dead, and then you have to process the toxic after effect. I've done fasting before, and I've done some cleanses before, and that's always, sometimes I get these fucking, I mean, just soul crushing headaches. I mean, really, you have to stay hydrated. It's a whole thing, right? I was worried more about the toxicity than the I knew the parasites can be killed. There's lots of things that are good against parasites. There's lots of foods that are anti-parasitic, and there's various types of, whatever it is. So I went to bed, and, I have some problem with my heart racing ever since I had COVID. I've had an irregular heartbeat since COVID. I didn't take the vax. I mean, this was, I think it was the second time I had COVID. But the first time I had COVID, I would wake up, my stomach would bloat. I think it was putting pressure on my heart. I don't know. It was disrupting the electromagnetic, whatever it is. Like, the COVID was such a fucked up thing. Like, I would go to bed and I would like have a horrible night, and I'd wake up the next morning, I feel fine. And like, I was like, oh, I'm better. And then like, then that day, or, there'd be episodes where I couldn't breathe. And like, I had trouble where I was having dizzy spells and just all this stuff. And, since COVID, I've had some of these issues. And I had one of these things last night, like that, and I don't know, the ivermectin's supposed to kill the spike protein. I don't know. I've taken things to get rid of the spike protein. I don't know. But it's been an ongoing health issue. I'm better off now. Like, I'm healthier now, mostly, than I was before COVID, but I have these, issues now, some of these issues that come back around from time to time. But either way, I had COVID when it first came out, and I was shocked that I got it because I social distance normally. Like, I don't interact with people. And I got it, and, if I eat some sugar, my wife and we had like ice cream. It was like, which we barely ever have. It was like some kind of, sugar takes down the immune system. It's a weird kind of set of circumstances. But I got it pretty severe, like, moderate to severe. And I was like, I'm not going to the hospital. I already knew I wasn't going to take the vax when it came out. I mean, this is 2020, March. And then a year and a half later, I got what we're calling Omicron version. And that was different, completely different. Some similar things came back up. And then I got the last version, which really wasn't that severe, except for one day I woke up with, like, I just couldn't move. Like, I lost all vital energy. I couldn't, like, get out of bed just to do anything. Like, I just laid there like I was dead. Like, it was. And so those are my 3 times. And each time was significantly different. The disease was morphing and mutating. And then, I had lingering health issues that I had to deal with. I had to start taking lots of supplements and had to rebuild my body. It was a whole fucking thing, right? And, when you go through something like that, and, when I first shared that I had it, I didn't want to tell anybody because we had it so early. My wife and I both had it. But we did certain things that we learned, we took different supplements and different things that we were learning about, and to get through it. And she was like, you people could benefit from what we know now, right? What we've learned. But this is when they were calling it coronavirus, right? And, I was hesitant because, like, I didn't know how big it was going to be and what the labels were, and it's just, people were scared shitless of it, right? They wanted to quarantine. There was like just all this talk about quarantining. I mean, this before masks and any of that shit. Like, this is early on. And I shared just because I had information that would help people, and just going through the experience and not going to the hospital, because that's back when they were putting people on respirators and they were dying, 9 out of 10 of them. And all these people descended on me and called me a shill and said I was faking and all these things. So that became the Cubies, or the Flubies, right? They're newbies to life, whatever they are. And they said that flu, was just the flu. It wasn't COVID. COVID wasn't something new. And, then there are some people said I didn't know, you just got a bad case of the flu, right? This is because that's what they were convinced themselves, right? And I've said this about the truth community, but from what I was going through, to have people say you didn't have it, that's like a red flag. Like, that's, you're putting a red flag on yourself. You're saying, well, here's the other one. Let me go to this other comment. When the person says, You missed it. You missed the most important part. You missed the most important part. When anybody starts a sentence, you missed it or you missed the most important part, even if I did miss it, it's an auto ban, right? It's like that's, a person is putting a red giant fucking flag on their forehead, a sticker saying, you don't want anything to do with me, right? And the person goes on, that's not Trump's voice. Well, it looks like Trump. I mean, they can recreate a, CG, they can create a, whatever it is, but Trump was always a piece of shit. This isn't any, the way Trump's acting now, it's not inconsistent with what he did before. And so that's not Trump's voice. That's not Trump. It's fake Trump. I want to know where Trump is. So that person more than likely voted for Trump and now is getting punked by Trump. And instead of dealing with the fact that Trump is not who they thought Trump was, admitting they're wrong, they come up and with this kind of weird fucking, this fake Trump thing where people say shit like that all the time. They replaced it with a person, which is possible. But, maybe you could just deal with the fact that you're like a dumbass and you got duped by somebody that, was it a fake Trump when he faked his assassination Trump attempt? Why didn't you see it then, right? And so when somebody comes up to you and says, you missed the most important part, that's how they start their interaction with you. You missed the most important part. No, the part that you made up in your mind, like that part. But these are giant fucking stickers. Like someone just slapped a fucking bumper sticker on these people's heads and said, yeah, this person's a red fucking flag. This person is a nightmare person. You don't want to deal with them. So that's why I ban these people. This is why it's an auto ban. Because in real life, if you came up and talked to me in this fashion, you'd be done. I'd be like, yeah, I see you. We don't have a thing. We're not, I don't want any kind of relationship with you, right? I don't want to know you. I don't, this is, you're advertising it. You're screaming to people, stay the fuck away from me. I suck, right? That's this is, and a lot of these comments that I highlight, that's why, I want to make sure that people understand. That's why I ban people. Then and if I talk about it here, it's because, that's what you're screaming. And once in a while, not once in a while, you'll have people who want to engage or change these people, right? There's a saying one of the people used to do my meditation used to say to other women that she would say, if a man tells you can't change, believe him. That's a feminist kind of, but it's a good thing to realize when people say they can't change and when people are screaming at you, I suck, I suck, I suck. And for whatever reason, you want to ignore the warning signs. People are telling you they suck all the time. And I had this with my ex. She told me she was broken and I couldn't really do anything about it. I was already trapped, but I could have done something before. Right. And, people have good sides and you'll see, oh, this person has a better side, a different side. And you think that good side's going to win. In some cases it does. And then the person can come around and realize that they were a piece of shit and try to win you over. If it's somebody that that's significant in your life or whatever, but when people show you their dark side and their good side, it's, you have to evaluate it, right? Everyone has some, their bad moments and you can't just, write off people who have a few bad moments. But when people just meet you and this is how they interact with you, they're screaming at you, stay the fuck away from me. That's what they're telling you. I suck, You missed the most important part. Yeah, okay. So I get it. Thank you. Stay the fuck away from me. Thanks for telling me, right? Are you still banning people because you said you had fake COVID? Right? Yeah, and they're banned again, bro. And, why are you coming back? I'm making it pretty clear there's nothing, there's no future but there, for you or me or whatever. It's, you could believe that Trump is fake Trump. And you could believe that COVID is fake and it's not real. But you should have enough humility to realize you don't know shit, right? We don't know anything. That's what I keep on saying to people. There's just layers and layers of deception. And, you think you know something because your inflexibility of everything has to be black and white. Everything has to be binary. And you have to know, you have to control, you're wound really tight. And so you have to, it's a fact. It's a fact that there's no COVID. And everybody who says there is either delusional or they're fucking faking or lying in their shill. that makes you like just a toxic piece of shit person. You're not a truther. You're not seeking the truth. You're not anything but it's just a fucking nightmare to deal with. And everyone you're unlovable. You're a fucking, like you're just a worthless piece of shit, right? And it's the same thing for, this other person. The thing with Trump. You can believe that it's not a real Trump, but you don't know. You don't know for sure. It's just a theory. You should have the humility and the common sense to know that that's not, that's not a fact. It's not, it's a theory. Like it's just something you believe. And that you might be right about it, but you don't want to, just because other people don't see it your way, it's not a, it's not some like, deal breaker because people have their own levels of perception and there's always there's always a spectrum of truthful things. Some things are truthful in the material world, but not so much in the spiritual world. And I talk about this all the time. There's layers to everything. And like if you don't understand that, you're coming in hard with your bullshit, and you're like, hey, this is I know the facts here. I'm a fact. This is you don't know. And even if you're right, you don't want to push people away or just be a dick about it because it doesn't really fucking matter. Like everybody's just mired in a sea full of lies and illusions. This is Maya. The whole planet Earth is like a simulation. It's not what you really are as a soul. And when you figure out what you really are as a soul, which you're so far away from because you're locked down to your binary little consciousness, and you're being an asshole about it. Like you're fucking you're remedial in your ability to perceive things and to express them and to understand what's going on in the world, and you're being a hard ass about it, and that should scream to everybody, yeah, stay away from this motherfucker because they're just worthless, right? Like this was just a nightmare waiting to happen. And there's so many people like this. They come out and they tell you right off the bat, I suck. You don't want to have anything to do with me. And they don't know they're saying it, but they are. And it's, it behooves people to realize that's the case because if they warn you and you don't, and you go along with it, then you suffer, right? And, and like I said, when you see the good side in people, you got to understand whether this person is, they're kind of good most of the time, and then they have their moments where they're just a piece of shit. We all have those moments. So, like, can the person be consistent? Are they hiding it, like during the honeymoon period? Like, are they when you first get to know people or whatever? So, but eventually there'll be defining moments where you'll see. I saw this with my ex. She had a lot of higher qualities. She had spiritual tendencies. She was really smart. She had, abilities, and she had a good side. But the brokenness and the darkness was really who she was. She was a fraud, right? Like the dark stuff, the bad stuff was definitely the driving the car, right? And so, that you'll end up seeing that kind of stuff, and then, you're expecting the good part to win out, and in some people it does when people have these battles, but more than likely it doesn't, and there'll be a time where you realize, And people are if they're saying to you stay away, I'm a person with boundaries just in general, and it's like a good idea to listen to them, right? Because whatever the thing is, they're not whatever. They're not capable of what you're hoping they're capable of, and they don't want it, right? And so these are these red flags, and there's pretty much 90% of comment sections there, or whatever, maybe 70%. I don't know. I mean, I'm just thinking off the top of my head. And lots of these, really contentious comment sections, people are screaming at you, stay away from me, I'm a piece of shit, and I'll only bring you misery. All right, so let's get into the other stuff here. Okay, so I went outside, I went for a walk. It was outside, beautiful day today. It was pretty cold for a while, now we got warm, anyway. And I just want to add something to what I'm saying here. Because I am not a good social person. Like I just, in fact, one of my viewers, when somebody watches these videos, saw me and my wife out at a farmer's market. And she recognized the dogs. And she said, she didn't understand why I said I'm not social until she met me, right? So, I'm not social. And my brother and I used to joke about how we would say inappropriate things. We would, and it took us a while to learn these things. My dad did this quite often. I observed him doing it. And, there's just some awkwardness and just saying things that made the people uncomfortable and, blurting out shit. I think my whole family to whatever extent. And that's just normalized behaviors, and you don't understand like how fucked up your family is until you go out into the world and you see how you interact with people, and they are put off by what you say, and even things that I say here, right? Because I'm not talking to anybody specifically. And when I say, "Wow, that's fucked up," when people are, when I understand other people are more fucked up socially than I am, then that's a problem because it's not. It's my weakest. It's the weakest part of my game, right? It's the weakest part of my, who I am as a person. And when I see other people who are more clueless and don't get it, right? And then that's, I mean, how bad are you if I know that you suck, right? What I'm talking about here with these two comments, the people are oblivious on how it's going to be received. Now, sometimes people are just trying to hurt you. Some people, the person with the COVID thing is just trying to be a dick, right? And so I must have banned them, but when I did ban them the first time, they weren't. They were just saying, "You're a fucking shill. You didn't have COVID. You're a liar." Whatever. You don't know. You just had the flu. You don't even know. This. They don't know how it is to receive that, and that's why I ban all these people because they never think about how it is to receive the comment. Like if they're just being a hostile and they want to hurt me or hurt my feelings or whatever, or somebody else's, that's bannable in itself because that's just being a piece of shit, right? But when you don't think about how the other person's going to receive it, when you say, "Hey, you got it wrong. You missed the most important part," right? You missed it, right? Like that's just, you don't talk to people like that. Like this, in general, you learn not to talk about it. You say things you learn to talk in a more delicate fashion and if you're trying to get information across in a way that's not so divisive and say, one thing you might think about is that Trump's voice seems different and it seems like he might not be the same person. Or have you noticed? Did you notice this and not say it? Or what do you think about this? What do you think about, do you think Trump's voice is the same here? These things. It's just a way, there's people who would say things like that, right? I mean, if you're commenting, what's the purpose of your comment? Are you trying to show you know more than me? You're trying to hurt my feelings? What's the purpose? Like, what's the goal? You want other people to see that I'm a piece of shit? You have these various things. And you have to be honest about what your goal is. Like, are you butthurt? Are you emotionally upset? Or what is it? Or you just blurt things out. You don't think about, how you say it or, how other people receive it because, that's what I'm talking about here. And so such people, they're never going to be thinking about you or anybody else, right? So they're just going to blurt out whatever they fucking think and they're just going to be blaming you for not liking it, right? So that's what I'm talking about when you have these people. And I see these comments all the time. There's no thought into, maybe I should say this in a way that's could be received better, right? They don't look like a fucking piece of shit, right? Like they're clueless to it. They just think whatever they think is God's word, and they're locked up and they're binary in their ability to process what's going on around them, and so and assholes about it too, and they're really not smart and thinking that they're smarter than everybody else, and they can't understand half the shit that's going on, but they still think they're smarter than other people who are, smarter than them. And it's just like silly, or just not even just smarter, but have a higher level of understanding and comprehension of what's going on around them. And so, the internet's just flooded with this kind of stuff, right? People just screaming, "Hey, I'm a piece of shit, stay away from me," right? Like it just, and so that's what I want to add. Let's get into the other stuff here. Okay, so this is not the most important video about this stuff here. Today's Monday, January 5th. This video will be up Wednesday. And so Wednesday afternoon, it'll be the second in the 3 days in a row. Woman's wearing a kick-ass hat here. Look at that fucking hat. Look at that fucking hat. So this person has Maduro. They have a sign of Maduro. I guess this is MS Now, so they're in support. So they have people who are in support of them and people who are not, and none of that matters because it isn't up to us to decide. Every country should have its sovereignty, unless that sovereignty is a threat in terms of, military or some, But it's a threat because America needs to glom as much resources off of all of their neighbors and the rest of the world as possible to keep on going. And they weren't down with that shit, so I guess they were a threat in that way. Anyways, I have a couple jokes here, so let's get to this one first.
Let's bring in Mark Polymeropoulos, MS Now National Security and Intelligence
Mark
Analyst. Former Chief of Operations.
What is his name? Say it again.
An intelligence analyst.
Here we go.
Let's bring in Mark Polymeropoulos, MS Now National Security and Intelligence Analyst, former Chief of Operations for the CIA in Europe and Eurasia, and retired four-star General Barry McCaffrey. He is an MS Now military analyst, though both are good friends to this show. So, General, what are your main takeaways as we learn these new details about how this attack unfolded?
Well, certainly it's an unmistakable, brilliant military operation. One of your earlier guests suggested it wasn't that tough a nut to crack. But look, we went into the heart of a 3 million person city of Caracas at night and snatched the head of state and his wife and got him out of there with apparently no U.S. killed in action and without exception.
Thank you for your service. I had so many times to say that to Trump and Marco Rubio in my last video, the one that's going up tomorrow. And I never got a chance. But let's get to this guy here.
Massive damage in 3 states to the Venezuelan military. I've been in a lot of gunfights.
Thank you for your service.
At the end of the day, Delta Force was on the ground.
All right, so do you really need to be in any gunfights? You ghoulish fuck, right? Look at this ghoulish motherfucker here. Why'd you just show up and show your fucking face and send them all fucking running for the hills, think you're going to drink their blood and fucking eat their intestines, right? Look at this motherfucker, right? He's been in a lot of gunfights. I've been in a lot of gunfights. You don't need to be in gunfights. You just got to go in and just scare the shit out of everybody. Just start coughing like you have something contagious. Like you're carrying some kind of, real fucking deadly virus or something. Look at this droopy dime in the fucking guy. Like, what have you done in your life that you're doing this? And retire. Like, you're on TV, bro. You're not on radio. Just, I mean, everyone gets old. That's fine. But holy shit. Just like, could you be more of a fucking ghoul?
Probably with FBI hostage rescue team. And they had to shoot it out with Cuban intelligence operatives at close range. So this was a brilliant military operation, and it succeeded. Having said that, it looks like there was no page 2.
There's no page 2. This is the name of this video that they don't have. This is the name of this video that they're putting up here. There's no page 2, retired general says. In Venezuela plan. Yeah, of course there's no fucking page 2, because page 2 is steal as much of their resources as fucking possible in a very haphazard, non-planned out way from a guy who went bankrupt 6 times when he was this, corporate giant that he's supposed to be, right? So of course there's no fucking page 2. Trump never has a page 2. He just bullshits, right? You bullshitters don't have page 2. Bullshitters just bullshit. Here we are with Maureen Joe here.
It's not running, it's running policy. The policy with regards to this.
Don't ask me who's in charge, because I'll give you an answer and it'll be very controversial.
What does that mean?
It means we're in charge.
Okay, so you weren't going to give the answer. Then she broke you down with that. What does that mean? You're like, don't ask me. I'm not. It'll be a very controversial answer. So don't ask me that question. What do you mean? I don't know. I'll give you the answer anyway. We are in charge. Fuck. You senile bastard.
All right, President Trump last night.
Well, you go into a fucking ball and you steal the princess's dress, or like, did the evil queen steal the princess's dress and Humperdinck and his gumpy hairdo?
The U.S. is in charge of Venezuela, somewhat undercutting the Secretary of State.
So he said we're running it, and then Marco Rubio said we're not running it.
Right.
And then he said last night,
No,
we're running it.
we're running it. Good
Crazy.
morning and welcome to
Has he ever
Morning
been to
Joe.
Pottery
Happy
Barn?
New Year.
I don't think he's been to Pottery Barn.
Break it, you bought it?
Yeah, this is like Colin
see.
Powell all over.
With us, we have the co-host of our 9 a.m. hour, staff writer at The Atlantic, Jonathan Lemire, columnist and associate editor, all of our panelists today. But we have a lot going on, a lot of moving parts today.
So many fucking moving parts.
Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores, Saturday night, where they are being held in a Brooklyn jail, awaiting today's future policy. The president, however, doubled down on his assertion just last night while outlining what he says he needs from the acting leader of Venezuela and Maduro's former VP, Delcy Rodriguez.
Don't ask me who's in charge because I'll give you an answer and it'll be very controversial.
What does that mean?
It means we're in charge.
Have you spoken with her?
We're in charge.
Have you spoken with her?
No, I haven't, but other people
Do you want
have.
to?
Yeah, at the right time I will.
Did the U.S. give Delcy Rodriguez any guarantees in exchange for cooperating with your administration?
No, but she's cooperating.
Short term, next 2 weeks, what do you need from Delcy Rodriguez? You've threatened Delcy.
Total access. We need total access. We need access to the oil and to other things in their country that allow us to rebuild their country.
Exactly. We need access to their resources so we can rebuild their country, because that's what we're supposed to be doing. We don't give a shit about America, and we got to rebuild Venezuela, and we're just going to take all the resources. We're not going to use their resources and profits for ourselves. We're going to put it back into Venezuela. We're not going to take the resources and distribute it amongst American citizens. I mean, that would be great, right? No, we're going to take the fucking resources and hoard them for ourselves. Fuck Venezuela over and America over. We're going to use American resources to rebuild Venezuela's oil fields and so forth, and harvest their resources, and then we're going to profit and divvy up the money amongst us fucking soulless schools, and then you guys can both be, well, both you and both the American and Venezuelan citizens can go fuck themselves, right?
If you had to sum up Operation Absolute Resolve, would you say that it was about oil or it was about regime change?
It's about peace on earth.
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ.
Peace on Earth.
Peace on earth. We got to have peace. It's our hemisphere. The Donroe Doctrine was very important when it was done, and
yeah, we're going to have peace because we're going to just bully the shit out of everybody and take all their shit and fucking abuse them and you know, colonize them and do all this kind of stuff. And that's how we're going to have peace, with fucking martial law and troops on the streets. And
presidents, a lot of them, they lost sight of it. I didn't lose sight. But it really is, it's peace on earth.
You know, it is stunning. It's breathtaking talking about we own this place. It reminds me of what George W. Bush said, and I looked it up on May the 1st.
okay, so the title of this video is Trump needs to explain how Venezuela operation makes the lives of American citizens better. One of these fucks is going to say that. We don't need to hear him, because the answer is it really doesn't. I mean, you know, maybe cheaper gas prices. You know, the stock market is going up a little bit right now for people who have stocks, right? You know, I mean, it's going to make it better for maybe some wealthy people, some corporations. Might be some more jobs now, whatever. There'll be more resources available that you're taking from another country, but it's spiritually definitely not. We're fucked. You know, in terms of, you know, what people think of as karma, we're fucked. And in terms of, you know, all the real profits are going to go to Trump, his buddies, and the, you know, the so-called elite. So it's not. This is not what Trump promised, because Trump fucking lied to you. Trump wasn't America first. He was Trump first. And this is good for Trump. At least he thinks it is. And, you know, we'll see what happens with the rest of this, but it's going to be a mess, because Trump is an incompetent fuck, and he's hired a bunch of dopes in his cabinet, and he doesn't know how to deal with the problems that this thing is going to, a country that's in chaos, and it's going to, and the country, in our country that's going into chaos, is going to end up happening. Anyway, let's go to the next one. Okay, so it's Wednesday, January 7th. This video's going up today. And most of it goes into Candace land with the whole thing with I got these great memes, like I said at the beginning of this video. And you know, it's just her whole thing. And a couple comments from people, one about this stuff with Trump and one with Candace Owens at the end of this thing. And, you know, people still supporting them. And I want to talk about the Donroe Doctrine, because I ended up talking about the end of the video. The Donroe Doctrine, a 200-year-old foreign policy established in 1823, has become the central legal and rhetorical playbook for the U.S. military operations you've been following in the Caribbean and Venezuela. The modern Donroe Doctrine. In late 2025, U.S. released the national security strategy that implicitly vowed to reassert and enforce the Monroe Doctrine to restore American preeminence in the Western Hemisphere. The core argument is that the U.S. will no longer tolerate the presence of non-hemispherical competitors, specifically China, Russia, and Iran, in what it considers its strategic backyard. I wanted to have the actual... Monroe Doctrine was set up to get rid of European competitors in the region, right? So and Trump has just changed it to be about these other countries. The Monroe Doctrine and Manifest Destiny are the two most powerful ideologies in American history. While they are often mentioned together, they are functionally a lock and a key. The Monroe Doctrine cleared the neighborhood of rivals, while Manifest Destiny provided the excuse for U.S. to move in. And so Manifest Destiny is a bad concept. Monroe Doctrine would get rid of any competitors, but Manifest Destiny was the idea that God gave the American and the Christians dominion over the planet, just like this whole stuff with the chosen people and that kind of thing. And whenever people bring God into something, and this idea that there's a promised land or whatever it is, like God doesn't make promises, God doesn't back governments, God doesn't endorse anybody or anything like these kind of things, right? People use God as an excuse to do these type of things. And, this is about, lots of things, which I'm going to cover in my next video. I ended up having these 3 clips I was going to put at the end of this video that, because of the Candace stuff, it just, I'm going to start off my video today for tomorrow on Thursday. That's going to go up Thursday night. And cover, the various real reasons that we're going into Venezuela, which, there's always multifarious reasons. And they always lie about it. Trump is kind of bold in things that he's willing to do, but he's still a lying piece of shit. Anyways, let's get back into it here.
They said, and whether or not that actually bore out?
Well, I can certainly tell you the message that they sent was that this wasn't about regime change. They came to Congress and they literally lied to our face. They said, this is just a counter-narcotics operation. This is about trying to interrupt the drug flow to the United States right around that same time.
So you're surprised that the Trump administration and Trump lied to your face? Like, you're fucking surprised about that? Like, that's all he does. Like, Trump, when he wakes up and starts talking, and he loves to fucking talk, he loves to get in front of a microphone and just run his mouth. 80% of it is just complete bullshit. Like, it has no basis in reality. Some of it's lies, some of it's his own delusion, whatever it is, but it is just flat out batshit crazy. Like, he's just babbling about shit, changes his mind, changes his story, doesn't follow through, says one thing, does another, breaks promises, and gives you new promises and breaks those, and then goes back and fulfills some promises and then breaks those again. This is fucking, are you surprised this is what Trump does? You thought this wasn't going to be about oil and shit like that? That Trump wasn't, this thing was always been about oil from the very beginning. Anyways. Okay. So I'm back into Candace land here for a brief, this is it. I'm not going to watch her video tonight, and unless people tell me or the information comes across that she's going to address the Hammer video with this Mitch Snow, I think she's probably just going to move on to some other thing, because that's what she does. Like, she goes to the Egyptian plains, and that's like a big old, this is a bombshell, and then it's just Alex Jones 101, right? This is like, it's been a plague on the truth community, where the people post something sensational and they say something, a bombshell kind of statement, with no real factual evidence. And I'm not a factual person. Like, the facts are the wrong way to go about it, because the people who control the official story control the facts. They are the ones who, the authority controls what's called factual and what isn't. So get away from the fact stuff, because they're always going to win in a fact war, because they can tell you what fact is and what isn't fact, right? And so, this whole thing. But anyways, I had to do this I didn't want to watch all of this thing with her. But this is where she doesn't address the videos, where she dismisses any of that stuff with Mitch Snow. She says Mitch says Mitch Snow 5 times, at Mitch Snow 25 times, Mitch 25 times, right? And it took her 35 minutes to address this, which is, most of this show is about what a piece of shit Andrew Colvert is. She's trying to, get off the Mitch Snow thing and onto DPUSK again, and Mitch Colvert.
And saying that lawsuits were going to be coming if I did not go back on my word of allowing, Mitch to be on my platform and share his story, that there were huge lawsuits coming. And I explained to Ian Carroll, I was like, Ian, this is not how lawsuits work. They didn't send me a cease and desist. What have I done wrong here? Then they said that he was never, that it was like stolen valor. He was never in the military. And then they had to admit that, no, actually, Mitch was in the military, but they were ashamed because he was a really bad dude who abused women in the past. And then they brought out the said women onto their platform. Like suddenly we were being brought into Jerry Springer, and they had to.
I like to see the women talking about him.
Absolve his past. Everyone's like, what does this have to do with Fort Huachuca? Can Suge Knight see Brian Harpole at a military base? Like, do I care about Suge Knight's history? What does this have to do with anything? This is just illogical.
It's illogical? It's fucking illogical. Like, she's like so fucked in the head, and she's so mentally fucked. Like, again, unless this is an act or whatever it is, and her audience buys into it. Like, she's getting millions of views on this stuff, but it has everything to do with it because it seems like they have some documentation that he was at Fort Huachuca, and the part with her showing his son, who, again, he was begging for money to fight for custody of his son, who's now an adult, 8 months ago. It was like, an 18-year-old kid and doesn't want anything to do with this guy because he's a grifter, which we'll get into all this stuff. But this guy, this tactical guy, who's another shill piece of shit, brings the son on, and the son said he never went to any of these forts, Fort Huachuca, and then the son says someone in the military called him because he was his dad's emergency contact, and he's laughing about it, and she's all gloating because it confirmed that he was at the base, right? So for whatever reason, if he was at the base, and this is a part of a scripted whatever it is for dumb fucks, right? The part about him seeing Erica Kirk, who says they're saying she has a block solid alibi, and seeing Brian Harpole is what comes down to his credibility, right? Like, him being at the fort or not can be confirmed. What he saw at the fort cannot, right? What he saw going on at the fort is not. You're basing it on his ability not to be a lying piece of shit, and he is a lying piece of shit. And the guy didn't abuse women. And so she's comparing him to Suge Knight, right? But if Suge Knight comes out and says he saw Brian Harpole and Erica Kirk at Fort Huachuca and can prove he was there, then she'll believe him. Like, a criminal, like a known criminal, if some known criminal comes on her show and says, guess what? I saw these two people here. Somebody who's a known liar and a grifter. And this guy has no fucking credibility, right? He has nothing. And so let's let this play out a little bit here.
So when the public didn't bite on that, they then said that it probably wasn't even true that he was at Fort Huachuca because he was a pathological liar and they could prove if this was a bad dude and a pathological liar. So I then dropped the military police reports, the actual incident reports from what happened on the base on that day, which proves that Mitch told the truth. So then they pivoted.
No, it didn't tell the truth. He said you can place him at the scene of the crime. It would say that if this report is true, then you could say he was at the fucking fort. But everything else he said is not credible, right? And so, that's where she's dismissing all the stuff. Like, she's saying this guy could be Suge Knight. So she's basically she doesn't want her audience to see the videos, right? Because they're fucking damning. She doesn't want him to see the videos of him doing his other grifting because, it contradicts her story, and she should have found these things before putting them on the fucking air. Like, she talks about what a great researcher she is. I found this one video yesterday, or for my last video, the video where another video where he's 8 months ago, he's whining about, I got that video still up, and I'll show you some more of that, where he's whining about his ex-wife and the divorce, and he's grifting for money. And so she should have found all these things because he has no credibility. You're basing everything on his story, and you can't do that. Like, you get somebody on it. If this is your sources, if she has people she claims are sources that say things like Tyler Boyer was hitting on interns, but if your sources are as credible as Mitch Snow, then you don't have sources, right? Like, this is, if you were doing criminal investigation as a cop, there's lots of people who, like, serial confessors or people who come in, to give tips and things like this, and they're known frauds. They're not, you just dismiss them. They just come in and they say they know something about the crime, and most of this, like, she has this tip line, and I'm sure she's just crazy fucks coming in and saying things. Some of them half believing in what they're saying, some just making shit up, and she's probably every one of them she legitimizes because she's going to say, I have a source that says this. I have a source that says this. Yeah, but that source is fucking a crazy fuck or a grifter or, there's a habitual liar, right? Pathological liar. Well, I don't know. I don't care, but I have a source that says it. And so we're going to get into this more with that other piece of shit, whatever his name is. We'll see that comedian guy. Because he's still defending this. Like, this is indefensible. That video of the guy with the hammer is hilariously indefensible. And I get to show it again, so I'm pretty happy. Like, as much as it sucks to watch Candace, I get to show you that video again. Because, we just can't forget how fucking ridiculous it is. And all the other pieces to it. And so, let's go to the next piece here. So this is the first time she introduced this idea of this guy, Mitch Snow. Didn't tell his name. And she prayed to God for legitimacy to her investigation at TPUSK, which now has turned into an absolute... Jimmy Dore is the guy's name. We got Jimmy Dore being a piece of shit about this too. When you're obviously wrong, just fucking admit it. Like, she said this herself, right? That this is not good investigative journalism. This guy can't be trusted. And it would be very easy to figure that out because there's video evidence all over the place, right? So here.
Information was given to the cartels. In continuing the mission, me and one Border Patrol agent were sent to Naco, Arizona, where I was approached by a cartel member confirming my identification by rattling off my mother's name, address, my high school, my friends, everything listed in my clearance packet, which was supposed to be locked in the custody of the Joint Task Force 6 commander, whose picture was with El Chapo and about to be discovered. We avoided being taken hostage or shot, sneaking away and driving out of that little town. I was taken back to Fort Huachuca with the U.S. Border Patrol agent I was with, believing, since I was just a young 20-year-old, that I must have somehow compromised my own ID. The next day, I had a debrief with the Army Criminal Investigation Division and a prosecutor from Tucson, Arizona, informing me of how my ID became compromised. I was told that I was then going to be put in witness protection.
So he's in witness protection, right?
Orders restricted me from any further work in counter narcotics, from being stationed on or south of the border.
So his story was he found these tunnels, these Iran-Contra tunnels. Again, this was where they were selling drugs. So they were using drug money to fund CIA operations and the stuff to do with Iran-Contra and the weapons that were given to free the hostages, right? The Iranian hostages. So this guy said that he was the guy who figured it out, but they all took away his they took credit for his work, and then somehow outed him to the cartels, and the cartels were after him, and they put him in witness protection, right? So he's in witness protection whenever this was 35 years ago. And then somehow he marries this woman, and this hammer thing would be when he's still in witness protection.
And it prevented me from working with Border Patrol. It was a Band-Aid while they prepared and got approval for me to be put into witness protection. Also, to protect me, the mission and the prosecutions, I was also put under an NDA gag order, which was dated out, right? Look, it says 1990, to May of 2025 to prevent me from mentioning this entire ordeal. The witness protection.
So he had a gag order.
Entrance never happened. The ball got dropped. I never got contacted for it. From what we uncovered, a deal was made with the compromised U.S. Border Patrol agent commander.
Okay, so he wasn't put in witness protection. And the cartels didn't take care of him, right? Like the cartels are mad because he discovered their tunnels, and they came up to threaten him. And then he was and he wasn't, but he had this gag order. And so during this period of time, he would eventually start putting up videos, his wife would, with him with a hammer, right? So that's 2016. So that's, 20 years after this incident happened, right? So this is like an incredible story, right? Incredible story where you would need other sorts of verification before sharing it. And so when she first starts talking to him, she says, wow, you're either lucky or unlucky. And everywhere he goes, he asks for money, right? So, this is this guy who is supposedly the cartels want a piece of him. And he has knowledge of a military operation, the CIA. He was involved in this thing where the CIA is taking drug money to run their operations. Things that they kill people for, right? Like the CIA would kill to keep these stories from going public. I mean, look at what they did to that guy, whatever his name is. They made a movie about him. And he was a reporter that busted that CIA was importing drugs and using that drug money to, run their operations. And this guy was completely blacklisted, couldn't work anymore, was harassed, the kind of stuff that they do because, they don't want loose ends. And this guy would have been a loose end with the cartels who wanted to get him, right? So this guy who's, this dumpy guy in his garage with his wife, that doesn't, this guy's not some special forces fucking whatever. If he is, then what happened to him? Because he's turned into some big fat fucking pussy, just not very effeminate and very just whiny and all this stuff. And he's going around the internet begging for money. That's this whole thing, right? Everywhere he goes, he's asking for money. Let's go to these other shows here. Okay, so this video here, urgent message update that Kate Spinda and Mitch Snow, a veteran and father's fight for his son. You click on this channel, and it says this channel doesn't have any content, but you go to videos, it's here. And I guess there would be these live ones here, which is where I would have found that had I looked. And so you have to go down to 8 months ago and somewhere over here, 5 months. So I found these videos with a little bit of search, right? And they're also available on, here, let's go a little bit further here. So here she was here with him here, and then here's this other video. And they're also here on Rumble, which, these things. And so this would be the other video here. Let's watch a little bit of that.
And while you do that, so Mitch, you basically have
a veteran and father's fight for his son, money laundering and corruption. A dark conspiracy goes as a father fights for his son against corrupt judges. Now his son wants nothing to do with him. Like his son is now out there saying he's a piece of shit. And I don't know if he's got another son or whatever it is. But he has one son going out to these things and being used against him. And he's an adult. So I'm not sure where this part even came from. But these guys.
No one to turn to, it sounds like.
No, I've used all my money. I've used every cent I have trying to pay for attorneys that don't get anything done. They get paid. Mom pays them. They launder the money through the stolen money through the court by calling it a 401k that it isn't. They put it into their pockets. They leave the case and they've left it open. It just goes on and on.
The lawyers are laundering your money. So this guy is a serial victim, right? Where he goes around whining about how he's being victimized. He's got these grandiose stories, right? Like this is a pattern of behavior. This is 8 months ago. Where are the cartels coming after him when his video with his wife put that video up on MySpace? Any of those type of things, right? He's not, they just don't drop somebody who has information about the CIA illegal operations. They just don't drop that guy and forget about him and say, oh, you have a gag order for 35 years and we're not going to think about you ever again because they tie up loose ends, right? They don't have problems killing people or doing whatever. He has this grandiose story that, does he look like he's an ex-Special Forces guy? He's, beaten down, fucking frumpy.
And when's the last time you spoke with your son?
May 31 May.
Of last 2024?
2023.
2023. So 2 years.
Yeah.
So what?
Look at how.
What's the communication like then? Is there any?
No. There's no attempt. There's no nothing. They won't even allow me to file anything in court. They've blocked me. They blocked the attorney that I finally hired. They won't allow for any. They don't want anything to come.
This show exposes corruption in Benton County, Washington. This isn't exposing corruption. This is guy's fucking sad sack's fucking story, right? And if every lawyer he hires somehow takes his money and launders it, right? It doesn't look like he's a great earner. But let's say he's on here at this, this podcast where they get like 2,000 views and begging for money. And then, they're trying to raise money and get support for him. And then Candace Owens is getting him a GoFundMe page, right? And, this guy is grifting. This is grift. What do we call that when somebody goes around and tells a, fictitious story and tries to gather sympathy and get money? It's called grifting, right? This is like Erica Kirk 101 using her grief as a way to generate lots of money. He just sucks. This guy's a lot worse at it.
Forward about any of this.
Wait, so does your son think that you've abandoned him or given up, or what is going on with you?
Oh, it's far worse than that, sir. It's far worse than that. So when we go back to the date of that hearing, 4/25/2023, where she gets this order, we now looking at the records, my criminal record, it clearly shows that the judge reported in that hearing.
My criminal record. He has a criminal record, right? So somebody with a criminal record, which, if that's just the Hammer incident, then that's a, bogus one because that's just hilarious. Him being menacing, which I think he'll tell a story here. So let's.
She reported, and they got a criminal protection order against me on that day, claiming that I was threatening the judge's life in that hearing. Now, clearly, there's absolutely nobody can look at that and say that I was disappointed. I definitely didn't agree with the judge. And,
Okay, so, why is everybody against this guy? The judges in this court in Washington and the cartels, his ex-wife who's beating him with a hammer. I mean, why is everybody so mean to this fucking guy? Why is this guy always a fucking victim and needing money and just sitting here like a depressed sad sack and this special forces guy? Why is everyone just so mean to him? I don't understand what's going on here. I mean, he's obviously telling the truth about everything, and
I did do is I went and got the transcripts, and that night, after my son wouldn't, he wouldn't exchange with his mom. I made a.
What do you mean he wouldn't exchange with his mom?
Complaint to the Commission on Judicial Conduct because, this judge is out of control. So, they're telling my son that he can't report when he's being abused. And I just, they're saying that he's a liar. That's when my son was all, oh, he's writing that stuff down. He's so
why
mad.
are you guys believing this?
But yeah, there was nothing. I made no threats. The only thing I did was I made a complaint against the judge, and I rightfully so, I believe. So, and they gave me a case number 11453. With that being said, it wasn't acted upon or anything right then.
All right, so let's go forward to his story here. A little bit more here.
To substantiate this judge's allegation. To, I don't know, come up with or anything right then. But all of a sudden, these two women were getting coerced or recruited, or they were already recruited to, I don't know, come up with to substantiate this judge's allegation. And
okay, so like, at what point do you start saying this is bullshit, right? Like this stuff here. I don't know if this is the longer videos on Rumble, probably. I don't know if he gets into the story here. But like he's saying, there's all this fucking conspiratorial shit against him, right? Like his whole life is one big, oh my God, let's take down Mitch. No, like everybody just wants to get this fucking guy. His ex-wife is the battle over the Mustang and the keys, like the fucking cartels and all these things, right? Like there's a pattern of behavior. There's people who just get on the internet and make up shit and, somehow grift their way around these various, subpar channels, low channels or whatever it is. And, there's these stories that no one takes them seriously, even if they were true. There's, you're saying that everybody's against you, including your own lawyers. And they all are working to conspire to keep you away from your kid. Like, who's being abused by his mom. Like, it's just, this is, and then, all these other stories. He lacks credibility. He lacks any sort of legitimacy.
In Franklin County. And these allegations that they made, they said, whatever it was, if I, they're saying I did it here. But yeah, they made a call and a deal with the Franklin County Sheriff to allow them, Benton County Sheriff, to come here with 8 squad cars, surround my home, have guns out in the middle.
Whoa, the fuck, whoa.
Middle of the night to arrest me. So they did.
Yep.
And they drugged me over. They kidnapped me on over to Benton County.
They kidnapped me.
Where by the 5th of June, when I'm supposed to be presenting all this stuff, they have a bail hearing for me that they wouldn't let me attend. Where, it's now proven they had in their hands the exculpatory evidence. They had the
They had the evidence right there. Fucking they were kidnapping me and shit.
Scripts from the hearing, where they alleged that I threatened the judge, which shows that's not true. They had my phone.
Okay, so that's there's a longer version of this, I think, on Rumble. Okay, so this is the full interview here. They only put part of it up on YouTube. They're trying to get people over at Rumble, but they're getting no views, right? And so here,
making me sick and yeah, eventually, I was about ready to find out that she was stealing the money out of my account for my veteran compensations and that I was trying to save up so that I could afford leaving her, getting an attorney, basically, try to split peacefully and civilly and do what's best for our son. And yeah, she was onto it, and making me sick and distracting me, taking my keys, preventing us from leaving, doing dirty tricks, just
Dirty tricks she was doing. Like she's
uh, keeping us locked up at home for the most part.
What do you mean locked up?
Eventually, it ended up in a situation where the bank was calling me in about strange transactions, and I was scheduled to go meet them. And she was going through my emails, and she found those messages, knew I was going. And on that morning, she was loading up the vehicle to go for this meeting. She came out and acting real kind. She took my keys, she took my phone, she went back inside and forced me to go back in and find out what was going on. Lures me to the garage that she pre-set up to be like a little prison. She broke the garage doors. Hoarded stuff was stacked against the windows and the other doors. So,
I mean, this fucking special forces guy. I mean, the cartel can't take him down, but his 5'4" wife.
And she lured me in there and attacked me. Hit me with a hammer and, break my thumbs, my feet.
Break my thumbs and my feet. My feet were broken.
Back my skull.
Back my skull.
And I got the hammer.
What year was this?
That was 25 June 2016.
So this is how long this has been going on. And just so everyone know, Mitch is still trying to get a divorce. This has been going on almost 10 years. And you're still not divorced. And this is back in 2016. This is crazy.
Yeah. So, she did that. And eventually I was hearing my son cry. I was worried about him,
I have my broken thumbs and my broken feet. And it's my broken skull.
Her maul him with the dogs again. And
just mauling him with the dogs, this poor kid.
She had done that multiple times. He had been hurt really bad. So when I heard him crying, I used the hammer to go ahead and break the door handle to get back in, to get to my keys, get my son, get my phone. And I called for help. I called for dispatch. And, she tried to attack me and she pulled on my arm while I was holding the phone, dislocated my arm. That's actually one of the surgeries.
I mean, she's like a giant, right?
I'm still recovering from getting surgeries from it.
Oh, it's just so bad. It's so fucking bad.
But, I called for help. I called into them. And as I walked outside trying to just get away from her or drag her towards me so she was not, my son doesn't get hurt. I saw there was already cops there. They were sitting on the corner at DeMoss Road. And
all right, so we know from the video. Let's go to that video one more time here. But first, let's go to this other one. Become part of a movement to save the world. This is what this is. It's this show. Okay, so they do a follow-up to that interview. And she says this.
As you know, the technical difficulties are real. And thank God Mitch lives here. So we are in this area. And this is something that I have been wanting to have him get his message out. And one thing I want to say before we get started is that Kat Espinda, contacted Mitch. Okay, I'm putting that right on the record for now. Mitch did not know me. He didn't call out to me. I actually found out about him and I called him. And this is how he got here. So just in case there's any confusion.
So that means that people were like, this guy's bullshitting you and he's grifting. And so she's having to do the same thing Candace Owens is doing. like clarify, because people are like, this story sounds fake, right? This guy's going on this sad sack tour, and he's telling everybody about these stories about his ex-wife, and then later on about fucking the cartels, and then of course the stuff with Charlie Kirk, right? This is pre-Charlie Kirk, so somehow this guy's a part of all this stuff, and the one common denominator is that everyone's out to get him, and everyone's thinking he needs money and support, and he's just some poor good guy, ex-military. Thank you for your service, and all this kind of stuff. All right, so we're going to go back to the video with a hammer in a moment, but here's this. So this guy, Paramount Tactical, I think he was on, and I could go back and check it, but I don't want to. Who gives a shit? But I think he was the guy on trying to verify the story about, he was on TPUSK saying that Tyler Robinson's story was credible, and he was giving the tactical details. And it wasn't him, so it was some other guy. But these two women are supposed victims of Mitch Snow.
The courage to come on. Thank you for sharing your story with us, and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
You're welcome. One of the things that I want to do before we get into kind of introducing exactly who you are, your relationship, both of your relationships with Mitchell Snow, is there is a podcast out there, and I want to go ahead and play this, and we will kind of hear what's being said about you guys and some other information. And folks, if you want to watch this entire podcast, I'll put a link for it down in the description below. And I do want to say I already see some super chats going on. What we'll do like normal is we will kind of conduct this like a normal podcast, and we will definitely we'll prioritize the super chats, and then we will also try to get as many live questions and comments in as possible. As always, we definitely...
Hey, let's go here.
If they're all working together, what
$1,000 equity that I built up in it now.
So the money they're after is obviously, like you just stated, the home eventually, if they get their way, which we pray they won't. But what amount of money are all of them, if they're all working together, what's the true incentive? What's really going on here? Is it, these might...
So here's these women. Yeah.
What to say, so that if you try to investigate them or go after them or have them, so basically it's like a perfect crime.
But it also takes the networking of the...
And then they get protective orders and run off, which the stipulations of those orders that they get, they know just what to say, so that if you try to investigate them or go after them or have them served, you're actually in violation of the protective order. So basically, it's like a perfect crime.
So there are these two
women.
But
it also takes the networking of the judge.
I have in text messages him admitting to punching me in the face the night he gave me a TBI, okay, and December 4th of 22.
Okay, so
men's financials.
That was her home after grad school.
Gotcha. Yeah, she purchased the home in Pasco in the middle of the night and get biker gangs to kill a Superior Court judge, Shay Brown, myself once I left, and Aaron Massey. He is the one that did that.
He did it. Mitch Snow. He's involved with biker gangs. Or threatened it. So here's his son here.
Like, we're going on 3 years, a few months away from 3 years of this relentless back.
I'm going to have him introduce himself. I'm not sure if he wants to use his real name. He's been waiting backstage gracefully and patiently. Yeah, so welcome to the show. Let's tell everybody who you are, and we're going to go from there.
I'm Cameron Dowler. I went by Myers for less than a year of my life when I very first started. My mom is Linda Dowler. She was with Harry for a very short amount of time. And in that very short amount of time, while she was still a medic in the U.S. Army, she left him because he was complete deadbeat. No child support, no real interest in pursuing a real relationship of any kind. Kind of left her out to dry, to the point where he had disciplinary action taken against him through the Army, because they kind of take that seriously. My contact with him has been extremely limited. I could have pursued something, but everything I knew about him from stories, from letters, and oh man, my mom has a box of letters from him that is just like story after story after story, and it's all fiction. It's not even believable. And she'll admit that now.
Well, Cameron, you're also a veteran. Tell everybody a little bit about.
All right, so thank you for your service. So this is this fucking mess, right? This is some like fucking, redneck fucking, trailer trash fucking nightmare mess over here that's going on, right? All these people, that are involved with this, the courts. The guy's life is a mess. And as this tactical guy, who I believe is a TPUSK dude, we could see, I'll go check that out just, because I fucking, whatever. I don't want to. But he was saying that Candace Owens could have found all this stuff, right? She could have vetted this guy, which is really everything. Because, when she's going to come on with bombshell information and release it to an audience of 2 million, 3 million people, and then it's going to be, talked about and debated about and involve all this stuff, and it's going to speak to the sort of the credibility of the truth community because it's going up against the official story. And she is the big fish in this thing. Like I said, nothing's going to come of it. And truth community is a fucking joke, so I don't care about that shit. But it's just, it's ick, right? The whole thing is just icky. Like she claims to be like a investigative journalist, but she would have vetted this guy and easily could have vetted him. I want to show the hammer thing one last thing. I want to end with that and just move on from this. But, she could have said things. She could have looked into this guy before bringing him out and his story, because his stories are fucking fantastical, right? Like he's going around these various places, and people know about him, and he's trying to get his stories out and get money for him, right? Acting like a dedicated ex-soldier vet who's been victimized by the system. And get, GoFundMe. They said they raised like $160,000 for him. I couldn't find the GoFundMe. I don't know if Candace Owens ever set it up like she said she would. But at least she said on her show she was going to fund this guy. She was going to go and get him money from her viewers. Her large viewer, she was talking about donations for TPUSK and not to give them any more donations. Because this is a battle of grifters, right? This is Grift Central. There's all these fucking grifters all pushing their bullshit. So this guy was on TPUSK. I recognize him.
Gary Milton, owner and lead instructor of Paramount Tactical.
This guy here, Paramount Tactical.
What is possible? What has lines of sight? And I knew just from what people were saying.
So this guy went on TPUSK and is trying to debunk the conspiracy theories around Tyler Robinson. And so, Candace Owens has handed this to him and all these people. And this guy's working with TPUSK and, behind the scenes, they don't want to get into it too much on their show because they're getting ratioed on their comment section. And this guy's supposed to be a patriot and, a military guy. And, he's vouching for the official story. This is like the fucking mess. It's the battle for the dumb fuck money, right? These are grifters all battling for the dumb fuck money, right? And the shekels, like these guys get shekels also. They get double, amnesty. And so let's just end this thing with the fucking epic story with this tabber here. Actually, one more thing to show you first. Okay. So this video popped up when all this stuff was going down last night. I just watched this introduction here. This piece of shit guy.
Candace is not responsible for every single thing that she puts on her show being accurate. That's not what she does.
What?
That's why people who watch it, they're like, she's never even saying anything. She's not even like saying what her theory is. That's exactly right. She is the central point of an open source investigation. She is putting on her platform what the clues are, and then we go chase them down.
What are you talking about? Who's we? There's no anybody chasing them down. Like, those aren't fucking clues. That means she can say whatever she wants and call it investigative journalism and then take credit for it, how she, she found Brigitte Macron's penis like that. That's what she's doing. That Mitch Snow or someone, she doesn't have to vet any of these people. That she just brings them on. They just say whatever kind of bullshit, things that they're saying. It only comes back to hurt the truth community. You can't do that. Like, you got to fucking, this guy could have easily, when you're listening to the guy, you go, yeah, this guy's a fucking joke. When we saw him on Candace Owens, I'm like, oh my God. Like, this is the guy, right?
So we've seen the controlled AstroTurf paid for attacks on Candace Owens, and they make no sense.
They don't make any sense at all. They don't make any sense at all that she had this guy on and that she was basing her, like, she has nothing. She's got fucking Egyptian planes, like a fucking, that's just weird, like the whole Egyptian plane thing. And somehow the French Foreign Legion were on these Egyptian planes, which again, and there was these guys, were military guys all wearing maroon shirts. And, she came in, the big piece of evidence she had that was big part of the whole narrative here was that a 30-06 would have destroyed Charlie Kirk and his whatever it was, his neck and his, would have blown up his head, this whole thing. That would have done, like, incredible damage. But then she got the report from Erica Kirk when they did their sit down that the bullet was actually some bullet that exploded on impact or disintegrated on impact. And so my guinea fowl are making a big racket out there. I'm going to go check them out. Okay, so it's in mid-sentence. I ran outside and we have this little fence that we put up to prevent the cow from hitting the central air because we had cows in our yard. And one of the guineas was caught in there, one of our guinea fowl. They're good alarm. They alert you when there's a predator. And, but they just go nuts and they're really loud. We like having them, though. The guinea fowl are great. But it was caught and it just wasn't able to figure out the multiple exit points it had available to it. But anyways, so then I ate breakfast. It's later than I thought, and I've lost my train of thought a little bit here. That's what I'm getting at. I had to change the batteries in my microphone. And so Jimmy Hoare, his point here, this guy brought on, is that Candace Owens has no accountability or responsibility to do any kind of journalistic research and vet the people that she puts on, right? She's just a catch-all for every crazy conspiracy theory, every tip that she gets in her tip line from, the crazy fucks on the internet, every disinformation agent, every, grifter, every person that can come up and say that they have info and present things that it's not her responsibility to make sure that these things are legitimate, right? Which is and she herself says that she, and then she says, I really trust this guy, that she's putting her credibility. I believe him, which she said about Mitch Snow over and over again. She said that she believes his story, without fact checking, and she's not responsible to do that, right? To actually, the tons of information that are available about this guy. I'm going to show you I'm going to end with that video of him with the hammer because that's just, a good way to send this storyline off, right? But if she's not responsible for any of those things, and she's just going to, every tip that she gets, she's just going to put it out there, every rumor, everything that's being said, that she can just put it out there, and the internet's supposed to vet it, then she should take that information and make sure that it's clear that this guy's a piece of shit, right? Like, she should take that information because what we're talking about is his credibility, and now his credibility has been destroyed. This guy has no credibility. The people in his life, his criminal history, his story, he has no backing for any of these things that he said. He's got these grandiose stories, and his whole, everything about him is in question, right? And so he's got his kids showing up and these other people These they have interviews with all these people discrediting them, which they're discredited too, right? They're all discredited. They're all fucking none of them. When you have disputes with your significant other, and I've talked about my ex quite a bit and her mental issues and things. There's a reason I was married to her. Like I'm not a victim. Like there's a reason that you connect with people. And, even though it sucked and she was, my ex had mental breakdowns, suicidal things led to, issues with our children. I mean, this whole thing, mental illness in her side of the family. My family sucks, right? Like, it's not like we had two good families. This whole kind of thing. But there's a reason why you go through things like that. You have these samskaras, past patterns, things, relationships that need to be worked out, things like this. And so when things are messy, it's usually an indication of like everybody's, involved in it. So what do you get out of the mess? Well, you don't get out of the mess by claiming to be a victim. You don't reverse your pattern of behavior by being a victim. You don't, you take ownership of your part in it and you clean that shit up, right? And this guy clearly has never done that. So he just keeps on, making up these fantastical stories. And so once he got exposed, Candace Owens' responsibility as a catch-all, I mean, if this is what this clown is trying to tell us, would be, that she's a catch-all and she doesn't have to do anything that would resemble any kind of journalistic integrity or anything like that. When the video of the hammer came out and these other things came out, she would show you the clips, because she's quick to show you the clips that support what Mitch Snow is saying. That he was at the fort, according to his son there, that he got called, this thing, that he got called because he was his emergency contact, even though they have no relationship, right? That this would be, something she would share, not the stuff that just supported her story. I learned this early on, because I was a part of this. I just talked about this. I made a video called 95% Chance Michelle Obama's a Dude. And, I was right about a lot of things in the video, but there's a lot of stuff I would not say now, or I would say it in a different way. Back then I believed that everything was on the truth community had been vetted. Like all the things that we believe collectively, and I'm talking about 10 years ago, when it was less people, it was, the people that were there had more integrity before it was flooded with disinformation agents and dumbasses, right, dumb fucks. And so, I believe that all these things, someone along the line had actually checked these things out, like thermite, for example, for 9/11, some of these other things, and they hadn't been checked out. There were things that people just threw out there, and nobody fact-checked it ever until, people started to notice the truth community, and a lot of these things ended up being bogus because people are just making shit up or coming up with crazy theories that no one ever looked into them. And so I changed the way that I made videos, and I felt like I had a responsibility to my audience. What is speculation, what's fact? But the majority of people are so fucked up. It doesn't even matter because they just will run with they'll take whatever they want to hear and run with it, right? And so, with this whole trans investigation stuff that ended up happening, it became a dumb fuck thing. When I presented the information, it was legitimized to some extent. Like it wasn't, based on my ability to do so. Like I said, I wouldn't make the same video now and I wouldn't release the video I made. I would have to redo it, right? As you mature and grow, you have to redo what if you look at things in the past, you get better at your job and you do it in a better way, right? But, what it became, I realized that, I wouldn't say I was responsible for that because, it just people were already talking about these things, this, men, celebrities and, Michelle Obama and all these women possibly being dudes. And, but I had this big video that was, it was done in a more educated way than a lot of the shit that was out there. And it brought some credibility to these notions, and then things ran wild. Just like with the flat earth and, the QBs and things. There's a lot of dumb fucks out there, and they don't care about facts. They don't care about, having some sort of journalistic integrity, and they don't care about any of it. Just they want people to agree with their bullshit fucking worldview and their distorted lens in which they see the world, right? And people are just brutal. And so, my wife and I were watching Hard Knocks the is it the NFC East or NFC North? It's the it's one with the Cowboys, the Redskins, or the Commanders, the Washington Commanders, the Eagles, and the Giants. They have this division, and they take a division. Last year it was the AFC. I don't know what it was. The one with the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Cincinnati Bengals and the Ravens and all that. And they take a division in mid-season, and there's this receiver. I think it was A.J. Brown is his name, and he's giving what I would assume was hot cocoa on a cold day to a young Eagles fan. So he takes some hot cocoa. They have hot cocoa on the sidelines. I think it's cocoa. It's something. It's some kind of hot drink. And he takes the cup and he brings it to this kid. The kid's like 7, 8 years old, and the kid's ecstatic, right? And his dad is, is aggressively lobbying the receiver to sign the cup, right? It wasn't enough that he gave this kid a cocoa. He's got to get his fucking signature too. And I say to my wife, this is why people suck, right? The Eagles fans are particularly bad, but this is in general. Like, he's getting something. This kid and the receiver are having a nice moment. The receiver can't. He's in the middle of a fucking game. Like, this is a game. He goes over, brings the kid the cup of whatever it is. And, the kid's got this thing. He's going to save the cup. He can tell the story, right? And, they video it because they always promote any kind of thing to make the football players look good, right? They are always doing these kind of bogus charity work. It may be sincere or not, but, it's very performative. But the guy's doing this thing for his kid, and he's like trying to get a signature instead of just being like, wow, this is a great moment. This is a good moment. My kid's having this experience. The signature isn't going to mean shit, right? Really, it'd be great if he had to, you can show everyone a signature when he shows people this paper cup. I'm assuming they save it, right? But still, it's just like a human moment. And they're always trying to get more from you. That's why I have boundaries with this audience here. You guys, or whatever it is, because this is my understanding of people. You give them something and they want more. I get people all the time asking me for more specific things, right? What are you giving back? It just becomes a parasitic relationship. Like, there has to be some exchange. What are you doing, right? So what are you doing from your side? So it was the same episode, or the next episode, I think it was the same episode. There was 2 Eagles players, and they were doing charity work with these, kids. And I don't know, there's an older kid, or I don't know if it was an adult, was there. Some people, needy people, I don't know what it was. And the guy comes up to him, he's a fan, and he's like, well, you won the Super Bowl last year. So the Eagles won the Super Bowl. I mean, the Eagles fans are known to be brutal, like throwing fucking ice balls at Santa Claus when you're like, and they're quick to boo their coach got into it with their fans last year. They're like the worst fans. And, they just won the fucking Super Bowl. And the guy says, you guys trying to win the Super Bowl again? And they're like, yep. And he goes, what about the last 2 games that you lost, not counting the one against the Raiders, because the Raiders were the worst team in the league? And and they're like trying to explain, well, you're going to lose some fucking games. We can't win them all. But, you just won the fucking Super Bowl, you ungrateful piece of shit. And this team is going to win, eventually would win their division and is going to the playoffs. And I mean, some franchises have never won the Super Bowl. You just won last year, and you're already fucking whining about this year. Their fans are, they've been crying all year about how they're not winning the games properly. I mean, they've had offensive lapses and controversy, and it's just, this is how people are. And I saw it with the Sajmarg meditation that I do, the way people relate it to the master, and they just will fucking take as much as they can, right? Like, I've seen it over and over again. And it's just a sad state of affairs. But you generously give to people, and they're like, well, that's great, but I want more. And not just everybody, but there's people like that. And then just, the nature of human beings and how they are, and, all these things. And so the internet's made up of all that fucking bullshit, right? And so as a responsible person, if she was responsible, if she is a catch-all, she can't just show the things that support these things that she's putting out and say, look, we're getting some validation. It's her job also to say, yeah, this guy's got some credibility issues. This guy, Mitch Snow, has got credibility issues because we're believing his story. And she came out and says, I believe him. I believe him. I believe his story, right? maybe I'll show you that. I don't want to really go back into Candace land, but let's go back to this. But, that's what she should do.
Because what she's doing is what you're supposed to do, follow leads wherever they go. And if they go to a dead end, then it's a dead end.
And then say everybody it's a dead end. And just say this was a waste of fucking time. She never does that, right? She never says that. She just pretends it didn't happen. And that's problematic. Like, if you're working together, she is just the most famous person in this, and she's utilizing an army of internet. Like, she's a QAnon person, using an army of wannabe junior detectives that get their Candace Owens investigator badge and their microscope, where they use those magnifying glass and a pair of fake rubber handcuffs.
But people don't want her following leads because it will lead somewhere that they don't want. Possibly Israel, possibly the FBI.
Okay, nobody thinking Mitch Snow is going to lead to Israel. And, like this, it's just logically, you don't need all, as far as Candace Owens is concerned, the U.S. military, the French Foreign Legion, it used to be Israel at some point. That's fucking disappeared. But, that was part of it. The Macrons, the DuPont family, and now this army base with the U.S. military, with this guy, Mitch Snow, were all involved. His security team, all these people were involved in this massive conspiracy, and they left all these fucking loose ends, right? Like, Mitch Snow is a walking loose end that the cartel is after, that corrupt military people that were involved in the cartel are after, that the CIA wanted to keep his mouth shut because they were using this money, the Iran-Contra money. And then his stuff with his wife and the judges and all these people that are conspiring against him. And now this, right? I mean, the guy is just, it's grandiose fucking mentally ill shit out there, right? This is just the whole mess. And you have to, go out and tell people all of it. You can't just, when the information comes back to you, you can't just exclude the stuff that supports your bullshit story. And so now everybody who's investigating the Charlie Kirk assassination, it's like she's just killed it, right? Candace has killed this thing. And, whether she's done it because this is what her job is, which is more than likely the case, it's happened. Like, now it has no credibility. The official story is just going to go through because she just keeps on doing things like this, right?
Possibly the military, possibly the people at TPUSA, possibly the head of his own security.
Yeah, but she's throwing shades on all these people, and they all suck anyway. Because I don't care about that. They're all sucky people. These are all sucky institutions that do fucking bad shit. TPUSA has always been about grifting, especially when Charlie was alive, because he was much more successful as a grifter than these other people. Like Erica Kirk can grift. She just can't convince anybody that she's legitimate. But
Brian Harple, we don't know where it's going to lead, but that's what they're afraid of us finding out. And here's
that's fucking silly. Like, I would love to find out. Like, I would love, it never happens. And, you just can't be throwing shit up against the wall all the time and, and basically slandering people with zero evidence to support it, right? Like, they all should be accountable, but she's not holding them accountable. She's just running wild with all these fucking bogus theories. And so, like, this piece of shit doesn't know when he, like, just said he should show it. Show the video. Like, you're a comedian. Show the fucking video, right? I want the video of him with the hammer and the video of him on these other shows, and show this guy has no credibility. Admit that Mitch Snow has no credibility and that Candace Owens is wrong about this and that she should, call her up and say he has no credibility. Fucking guy has no fucking credibility. And this isn't going to lead back to fucking Israel. It's just not. Like, come on. Okay, so look at this guy's fucking face, right? But here.
And I decided that, you know what? This is not my platform, okay? I genuinely believe this is God's platform. I am a conduit. I don't know why I have a platform. And I don't know.
You think this is from God?
Why you have this luck in life. I really don't. I don't know why these things happen to you or why they happen to me. But I know that my prayer was very intentional that night that I received that email. So I'm going to allow the internet to hear your testimony, hear what you think. And I also want to show them a picture because we did look through some congressmen, and I didn't.
Okay, so this is a big moment here, because this goes beyond journalistic integrity. This is her as a supposed religious, spiritual person, and that she's a conduit for God. You know, which is what I talk about, like legitimately doing here, because that's what the Sajmark meditation is. The people who are preceptors, the master of the system, they all, you know, all the people in the system work for, or at least this is the idea, and have the intention that to be a conduit for God to let this divine energy called the transmission and the services that are getting, you know, this divine energy, the utilization of the divine energy for the transformation of man, the Pranhuiti, right? This energy that's given in the sittings, and then also information. And you can see there's a flow to it, but it's a flow that doesn't have anything to do with this bullshit, because this has, you know, the system is going to collapse. It will. So none of this stuff matters. This is just like window dressing. None of it, like it's not important. But she says that she prayed to God to give her something legitimate. And this is what God delivered to her. And so your prayers suck, honey, right? Pumpkin, your prayers aren't fucking working, because they delivered this piece of shit to you, right? Like fucking this illegitimate piece of shit, right? And she's validating him, not only like she says she believes him. I don't know why all this stuff keeps on happening to you, right? Let's rewatch this whole piece here.
And I would be turning my back on this, really a hero for discovering the cartels who's lived through so much.
It's calling him a hero, right? This isn't her. She, you know, her audience trusts her, and she's calling him these things here.
That her mother moved to Arizona because she got involved with the military. So that could be totally unrelated to the meeting that took place on the 9th. And I didn't want to, but then I said to myself, this man has lived through so much. You know what I mean? This man has lived through so much.
No, he's told you a story that you did nothing to fact check. Like in a world of liars and grifters where you're supposed to find Brigitte Macron's penis, you didn't think at all to investigate this guy. He was easier to debunk than any bullshit that you pretended to debunk. A person that's throwing out Egyptian planes and all this kind of shit that you're throwing against the wall, and you're calling him a hero that's lived through so much.
And I would be...
Let's back up a little bit here. I'll rehear that part.
Didn't want to... But then I said to myself, this man has lived through so much. You know what I mean? This man has lived through so much. And I would be turning my back on this, really a hero for discovering the cartels who's lived through so much and has been treated like the government. And then I struggled with my own soul going, I'm turning my back on him because I'm afraid of backlash for allowing him to tell the truth. And
so she's saying it's the truth. Allowing him to tell the truth? So this isn't her being a catch-all, you fucks. This isn't her fucking just putting information out there saying, hey, I don't know if this is true or not, but I'm giving this guy a platform. No, this is her going all in on it. Then she's going to bring fucking God into it here.
So, and my soul was in conflict. And I decided that, you know what, this is not my platform, okay? I genuinely believe this is God's platform. I am a conduit. I don't know why I have a platform. And I don't know why you have this luck in life. I really don't. I don't know.
Then the gods just fucked you. Candace. If this is what God sent to you, then God's just like, fuck you, Candace.
These things happen to you or why they happen to me. But I know that
why does God hate Candace Owens?
My prayer was very intentional that night that I received that email. So I'm going to allow the internet to hear your testimony, hear what you think. And I also want to show them a picture because we did look through some congressmen, and I didn't tell you where they were congressmen from, but there is one that you thought looked familiar. And I am going to show that picture of him.
So, you know, and this guy apparently had some big fucking alibi. But, you know, she did no vetting and saying this comes from God, and she believes this guy, calling him a hero. Like, she's validating all of his story. And so let's end it with this. Okay, so this is wrapping up. I'm just about to do lunch here, and this is wrapping up to be a great video today, and I'm really enjoying myself. So I made a bunch of good memes. I'm in the process of doing that. But I know they're going to be good because I already pulled the clips. And I'm going to show you the memes. I also have an epic comment I want to destroy. on stuff to do with Trump and Maduro and Venezuela. And then I got stuff to cover with that, the official story, and there's a bunch of good stuff coming up. And one little more clip of Candace Owens and some meme stuff. But here, I just want to make an appeal.
Video record shit.
You want to threaten to hit my car with a hammer? God damn it! Marriage over, Mitch. Goodbye.
Why, Lene? Why goodbye? I mean, you kids, I thought you kids were going to make it. I thought you crazy kids were going to make it. Why are you giving up so easily on this fucking, this this wonderful example of manhood? Why are you giving up on this good man, Lene? I mean, marriage over, bitch? I mean, I think it's just, you're just having a little dispute, a squabble that involves hammers and Mustangs and videotape. And, I think you're jumping the gun here. Say it isn't so. This amazing love story should not come to an end. All right, so I had to do that. That's not the meme, but I guess it could be. So I also came across this, and this, hopefully will end my coverage of Candace Owens, because there's unless some bombshell thing that's better than this. Like, how can it top this? I mean, she's been exposed, whatever. But she's so hard to listen to. But anyways, let's get through this.
If you had to put it at a percentage that you were looking at Brian Harpole, maybe he's got a brother in the military, who knows, right? Maybe he does have a doppelganger. He's got a twin brother, who knows? And I want to be clear, I can confirm on this podcast live every step of your story in terms of where you went, what time you were there, that there was this big meeting that happened. I confirmed the location with other people that are on.
So she is doing investigative journalism, right? She confirmed everything but the credibility of this guy's story, which is, him going to the military base is not a story. Him being at Fort Huachuca, what I call it? I forgot what I liked my name better. But him being at Fort Huachuca is not anything. It's not a story. It's that he saw these people that she now keeps on saying may be doppelgangers. Like, that's an out for her and for him. But then the rest of his story is, he's not credible, right?
Huachuca currently, I can confirm everything with metadata.
She's got metadata.
I obviously can't confirm that you saw who you say you saw. If you had to put it at a...
Oh, she also said, let me see,
He's got a twin brother, who knows? And I want to be clear, I can confirm on this podcast live every step of your story in terms of where you went, what time you were there, that there was this big meeting that happened. I confirmed the location with other people that are on Fort Huachuca current.
Okay, so she's saying she has other sources that are leaking classified meetings and stuff at Fort Huachuca, that they're saying that he was there that day with all these things. She's saying she has that intel, right? And so she's gone to I'm not saying she does have it, but she claims she has it. And maybe she does, maybe she doesn't. But what we do know is she fucking, didn't check into this guy with any sort of, she's checking into to support his story, but she's not trying to debunk his credibility, right?
I can confirm everything with metadata. I obviously can't confirm that you saw who you say you saw. If you had to put it at a percentage that you saw Brian Harpole, what percentage would you put it at?
95.
95. All right. So this guy's incredible. This credible guy. He's so fucking credible. All right. I'm going to get to the memes now. Actually, I have one more thing to say about this.
What percentage would you put it at?
95.
95%. Okay.
95 to 99. When I saw him...
See, she's, she's not on the hook. She's exposing this guy to, whatever, liable, which is not going to happen. But still, he's coming out saying, but he's like, I'm not sure it was him. The guy looked like him. So they're not saying shit, right? There's not the smoke in the gun. He doesn't know if it was. He only saw some guy there who he remembered later on when he saw Brian Harpole and said, oh, that looked like that guy at Huachuca. And that's kind of convenient for a guy who wants to get on Candace Owens' show. Because this is the whole reason he's here. He's saying 99% it's him. But, what kind of memory does he have that he looked at this guy, didn't know who he was, didn't recognize him because he didn't know who Brian Harpole was. And then 3 months later, when he sees Brian Harpole's interview with Sean Ryan. He's like, hey, that's a guy I saw it with Chuka, but it's 99%. And she's shaking her head because she's saying this happened. There's no catch-all, and let's expose this to the internet. Do your due diligence on this piece of shit right here, and you would never put him on, right? He's not a credible guy, right? So, this shows you everything you need to know about that. Let's get to the memes here. Okay, so I have 3 memes. I'm going to show the Alex Jones one. It's just a short one. Then I redid the, the Hammer Guy one, and I inserted Mitch Snow into it. And then I got these, the best one for me is the Candace Owens one, which will show you last.
God gave me a good brain.
Demanding to know, where's Nancy?
Stop the hammering out there. Who's got a hammer? Where is it?
Touch that Mustang. Stop it!
Touched it.
Where's the hammer? Is it on the... Go up on the other floor. Somebody go up there and stop the hammering.
You want to threaten to hit my car with a hammer? God damn it! Marriage over, Mitch. Goodbye.
Stop the hammering. Call fuck Griffin. I don't care who the fuck to call. Stop the hammering.
You want to video record shit?
Empty out the goddamn control room and find out where this is going on. It's either there or there.
I have no idea where the keys are. Would love to know.
Or out there somewhere.
Out of control. Jesus Christ. Crazy sound coming in my ear. This stupid hammering. I told you why I wanted those words cut. It just sucks. It sucks to be out here with this out of control Any thing can come into my ear at any moment. These things. How do you say this guy's last name? Demanding to know, where's Nancy?
But then I said to myself, this man has lived through so much. You know what I mean? This man has lived through so much.
My wife neglects us, ignores us, and then screams at us on Saturday morning.
And I would be turning my back on this, really a hero.
I didn't give you an asshole answer. I gave you a smartass answer. It's Saturday morning, and it's okay to be a smartass.
For discovering the cartels.
I have no idea where the keys are. Would love to know.
Who's lived through so much and has been treated like the government. And then I struggled with my own soul going, I'm turning my back on him because I'm afraid.
Touch that Mustang. Stop it!
Touched it.
Of backlash for allowing him to tell the truth.
You want to video record shit?
And my soul was in conflict. And I decided that, you know what, this is not my platform, okay? I genuinely believe this is God's platform. I am a conduit. I don't know why I have a platform.
You want to threaten to hit my car with a hammer? God damn it! Marriage over, Mitch. Goodbye.
And I don't know why you have this luck in life.
And she lured me in there and attacked me. Hit me with a hammer and, break my thumbs, my feet, back of my skull.
I really don't. I don't know why these things happen to you or why they happen to me.
Yeah, she took my keys, she took my phone, she went back inside and forced me to go back in and find out what was going on. Lures me to the garage that she pre-set up to be like a little prison.
But I know that my prayer was very intentional that night.
Then you stop it.
That I received that email. So I'm going to allow the internet to hear your testimony, hear what you think.
You know what? Do it all you want. Go ahead.
I don't want to. I want you to fucking start treating me better than you treat this car.
Everyone's like, what does this have to do with Fort Huachuca? Can Suge Knight see Brian Harpole at a military base? Like, do I care about Suge Knight's history? What does this have to do with anything? This is just illogical.
But that's not what we were doing today. But you have to do this. You have to. Don't defend
ask you a
yourself
question.
now.
I can defend myself all I want because you're being insane.
Ally with me, and I know how much you are already going through fighting them, and I intend to help you raise money.
What is so bad about being a smartass?
to go through these lawsuits with the federal government. I know this is not easy. I know what your kid has been through. I know what your wife has been through.
Mess with your car. I haven't touched this car in forever.
And no one should have to go through this because they told the truth.
Yeah, I've never done crap like that, Mitch.
That's the thing. You do it all the fucking time.
No.
That's what you do.
You just beat our door in with a hammer.
Why are you videotaping me?
Why are you acting crazy? You want me to let you in and that's what you do?
And potentially stumbled upon something corrupt, did definitively stumble upon something corrupt. And I think the public will be with you because...
Yeah. So, she did that. And eventually I was hearing my son cry. I was worried about him, having her maul him with the dogs.
Boats and hoes.
So I just, for no reason, add the boats and hoes. Well, for some reasons. It's my original meme that I used to use all the time. And I have all these memes, and I'm just not remembering to use them. But anyways, let's get to the voiceover here of these comments. Okay, I think I got 2 or 3 comments to do with the Trump thing. And 1 comment to do with the Candace Owens. Maybe a couple things to do with Candace Owens. Here, let's go through this and see here. And so, here's the first comment here. Both of these comments are very similar in their dumbassness. Dumbassness, I don't know. Have you considered the feelings of the Venezuelans? Candace has 99 problems, and the Mitch is all of them. Marco says Maduro is a big boy. Have you considered the feelings of the Venezuelans? They're pretty happy with it. I know that it isn't the gift that it seems to be, but the reality is that Maduro was a piece of shit. He was affecting the U.S. Okay, so you're saying that the Venezuelans are happy with this because you're listening to Trump and you're listening to Fox News, and you're a dumb fuck because we don't know what the Venezuelans feel. This is a long comment. I'm just setting in on it early because I just, these kind of dumb fucking comments, they're depressing. Like they're just saying you're just saying to the person that you're writing it to, which is me, there's no hope for humanity because this person writing the comment is at least sort of participating and trying to think for themselves. He just sucks at it, right? But the majority of people don't have an opinion of this and can't even converse or have a strong take on it because they have no critical thinking skills. And at least these people who leave these comments are trying to do that. And so they're better than the sheeple. They just suck at it, right? And they're doing it in the worst kind of way. Like they haven't broken free from their own bullshit. So have you considered the feelings of the Venezuelans? They're pretty happy with it. I know it isn't the gift that they seem to, but the reality is that Maduro was a piece of shit and was affecting the U.S. So you're saying that if, in fact, let's say the Venezuelans were miserable and they really wanted to get rid of this piece of shit, that if the people, say, wanted to get rid of Trump, if the majority of people want to get rid of Trump, it's okay for some foreign government to come in and just snatch him? You think that's okay? Like if American citizens, which it's 60% want Trump out. Right now it's 60% that want Trump done with. They would be happy if Trump was gone. So, the Republicans are even crumbling now, like his last refuge, right? And would you be okay with it if they just came in and snatched your president, right? I mean, if they did that to Biden. The other piece to this, and again, this person's, trying hard, but is a dumb fuck. The other piece to this is every time we have done regime change, every time we've taken out a leader, that country goes to shit. Go visit those countries. Like, if you want to talk about this stuff, go visit them. Go visit fucking Libya. Go visit Iraq. Go visit Afghanistan. Go visit Syria. Go visit any of these countries that we fucked around with. Go visit Iran, 60 years later. 60 years after we took out the democratically elected leader in a similar circumstance, right? They had this guy Mossadegh in Iran. Iran is a test case for this. And Mossadegh was very progressive. He was a moderate Iranian leader. They were dressing in bell-bottom pants, and they were embracing Western values and they were doing quite well. British Petroleum, which it went by a different name then, had developed the oil industry in Iran. And he said, look, you guys are taking 80% of the profits. I want to split it 50-50. And British Petroleum, which is a British company, whined to the CIA, and the CIA took the guy out. They put in the Shah of Iran, who let the British Petroleum continuously steal the Iranian oil. And he was such a brutal dictator that they got rid of him. And that led to the government they now have, which everybody knows is fucking a nasty, totalitarian government. And so we know what happens when you do regime change. No matter how much a piece of shit your ruler is, and again, you're calling him a piece of shit because you're listening to dumb fuck Republicans, or Republicans who are talking to dumb fucks like you, right? So this is, again, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know if the Venezuelans are happy, and you don't give a shit about them, so don't even talk about it, because nobody cares about them who is in favor of this move, because it's only going to get worse for them. It ain't going to get better, because of American involvement. The software used inside the voting machines that we, the U.S., use in our elections are tied to Venezuela chips manufactured in Taiwan. You don't think the CCP has a backdoor into these chips? Geez, you make such great points. All elections are fucking rigged. That doesn't matter. Nobody likes their fucking leader. Leaders get elected on false promises and promises that they're not going to keep. Nobody likes their leader. That doesn't mean you get to take them out. It's unbelievably arrogant, and it's because we think we're better than they are. And Trump came out and said it's the Donroe Doctrine, right? This is about the Donroe Doctrine, which is, I think I covered it in this video. It's been so many days. I think I haven't edited this video yet. But if I see the Donroe Doctrine in this video, I will have already talked about this. But it's this idea of manifest destiny. And, when Trump said this thing about peace, I think I covered this recently. If I haven't, whatever. I think it's in this video. Clips that I made Monday. Today's Tuesday or whatever. A bunch of shit's happened since then. But anyways, Trump wants to, he says peace has to do with keeping America happy. As long as America gets what it wants, there'll be peace. And so that's what bullies say, right? Trump's a fucking bully piece of shit. Also Epstein, which I'll get into my next video. This has a lot to do with Epstein, like everything does. And so it's all of that shit. None of it's good. I'm all for finding the truth, but even I know the truth is complicated and can manifest itself in the midst, and can manifest itself in the midst of evil. Truth is simple. Truth is whatever the truth is. It's just that, our whole system is based in lies. I'm not a fan of this regime and their technocratic agenda, but I have to respect the chess move. Was it orchestrated? OFC, if it was. But there's more than just resources at play. There is a truth that's being searched for, and Maduro, a former election thief, might have some clues to them. Okay, Jesus fucking Christ. It's depressing. I know you're trying hard to think for yourself, but fucking try harder, bro. And then someone said, I know you feel like the Candace stuff is ridiculous at this point, but please keep covering it. Your analysis of the whole Candace PUSK saga has been top-notch content. That's not the comment I meant to. There was another comment. I screenshotted the wrong one. It's just really hard for me to watch Candace. I've got an aversion to her. And after you see how much I had to watch her today with this thing, it's going to be hard for me to go back in, and I don't see a need to, because she's pretty much, if you can't see it by now, you're not going to see it. Okay, so there was a Candace comment. I hope I didn't delete it or ban the person before I copied it. But this person wrote to the comment I just read, someone else responded. That's like saying you respect 9/11 because it was a chess move to get the U.S. to regime change war. Well, this is not a good thing for Venezuelans or Venezuela either. Changing one dictator for another puppet dictator will not help you. And it goes on from there. all that stuff, right? Then they go back and forth for a while. And the person wrote this comment fucking twice. Sometimes comments show up twice. This guy's got a 666 in his name. Okay, so this is something I've already addressed in the video. But the person writes, luckily I didn't ban this person yet. Mitch's son said military police called him September 8th, proving Mitch was there. I know you're busy, but come on. Well, I'm not really busy. I'm pretty much of a slacker. I mean, you know. But I saw the video clip, and I didn't see that part till today. But I didn't address it in the other video. But I did today, right? And what this person can't understand, again, someone who thinks they're someone trying to think for themselves. Really trying, but, just following Candace's lead. So Candace pushed this thing out there that they interviewed Mitch's son, and Mitch's son was kind of hammering Mitch. But he confirmed that the people at the Wachucha, whatever it's called, Wasaki. I just, I've been hearing it. I've heard it 100 times. I still don't know what it is. Fort Wachucha. Fort Wachuchi. They called him up and said, hey, Mitch Snow put you down. And this son doesn't want to talk to him at all. Hasn't seen him. Mitch was never a part of his life. Didn't pay child support. Wasn't there for him. The son hates him. And he was laughing because Mitch put him down as his emergency contact. So he was confirmed that he was at the fucking fort. And so, I don't believe any of it because the guy's such a putz. But maybe he spent some time in the military and a gay capacity. Like maybe suck dongs there. I don't know what his job was, but let's say he did, right? There's an incident report that Candace showed. And in that incident report, it said that he went into the fucking fort with a backpack. Nobody knew who he was. The official story is that he was under a gag order for some bullshit thing that he had nothing to do with. This, Iran-Contra finding tunnels for the cartels. So that whole thing, right? And after the gag order was up, he went back to Fort Wasuki, and he decided to, find out what happened, even though it's been 35 years. And you don't show up at your job 35 years later when nobody remembers you, right? Like 35 years is a long fucking time. But he shows back up to this place that he said he worked, which he may or may, maybe he has, maybe he hasn't. Maybe it's a setup, right? He shows up. And they are like, who the fuck are you, freak? And they take him in the back, and they are searching for him for bombs. They are basically arresting him, thinking that he might be somebody who's going to blow off a bomb because he's coming off weird and crazy, right? Like he's not getting some Medal of Honor. He's not getting a Purple Heart or some shit. They're searching for him because they think he's a fucking terrorist, and they are searching him for a bomb. And then he said he meets all these people, including that one twink's brother from one of the two twinks on the TPUS guy, right? The two main twinks. And then he says he sees whatever that fucking guy's name, it's late now. Brian Harpool. I had to go to ChatGPT because I'm just pretty tired. Brian Harpool. And he saw Erica Kirk the day before. And he ends up saying that, which you see in this video, he's 95% certain he saw him. Even Candace Owens says she can't verify whether he saw anybody. So just because he's there, you could go to the mall, right? And what if your kid came home from school and said, I was at the mall? And that's hard to believe because malls are going out of business. But let's say your kid goes to the mall. And your kid comes home and says he saw a fucking Stegosaurus fighting the Hulk. And, with Elvis playing music and, whatever, and Michael Jackson doing whatever fuck he does, right? And you say, that can't be, you're lying. His kid said, no, look, I was at the mall. And shows you receipts from, whatever mall store still exists over there. Sears, JCPenney. He shows you receipts that say, hey, he was actually at the mall. Do you go, I guess it must be true because you were there. You must have saw all those things because you were there. Like you see, like that's how fucking stupid you are, right? Like, why even write a comment like this? It's fucking depressing. Like, I know you're trying hard, but like, it's not good enough, right? Just because he was there doesn't mean anything he says is true. The only thing that can be, verified, and Candace Owens says it herself, is that he was there at the place. All right, so he was there. But that doesn't mean he saw Brian Hartpool. It doesn't mean he saw Erica Kirk the day before. And you know what? He went for the big kahuna. Like, he didn't have to say he saw Erica Kirk. And he said he saw her, like, at a hotel the day before. And, of course, he's going to say something like that. Just like Trump had to bleed out of the year. If Trump didn't bleed out of the year, it would have been much harder to call that thing fake. Because, and nobody would have cared about it. So he went for the WWE-style bleeding from the ear, which made it pop, his fake assassination attempt. But because he did that, it caused problems, because he didn't really have a cut on his ear. There's no scar. He wore a big maxi pad for a cut that was already dry. The fake blood was already dry when he stood up. And for the same thing, this guy, Mitch Snow, he could have just went with Brian Hartpool, and that would have been enough, right? Again, he's incriminating the whole military base and all these people. He's implying they all worked together to assassinate Charlie Kirk, which is a fucked up thing to do. For people who are actually probably better soldiers than he ever was if he was actually in the fucking military. But aside from that, he had to go for Erica Kirk. Well, I also saw Erica Kirk, and I saw the fucking Easter Bunny. And I saw fucking, Charlie Brown or whatever it is, right? Snoopy. Like, if he just went with Brian Hartpool, it'd be more believable. But he has to drag in Erica Kirk, who apparently, these people can all have alibis. And he starts name-dropping these motherfuckers, like so many of these other frauds, and they always push it too fucking far unless, that's the script he's supposed to read. And so, you could have figured this shit out for yourself instead of leaving this dumb fuck comment. Let me read it again here. Mitch's son said military police called him on September 8th, proving Mitch was there. I know you're busy, but come on. Maybe the person was saying that I didn't go far enough in the video, but I'm trying to get the video done Monday night for the next morning, right? And so, none of that stuff is important. Like, it's just, she didn't show you all the other stuff that shows that this guy's not credible. And so anyways, so there's that. It's the same kind of stuff that Candace criticizes these other people for, where she doesn't have any real evidence or she just has things that could imply something happens or people who are willing to say something happened, but no one can verify it. And then she's praying to God to send her a real lead. And she gets Mitch fucking Snow. And, and that's why we know God hates Candace Owens, because that's she answered her prayer with Mitch Snow. Right? Anyways, I saw this comment yesterday. I didn't take a screenshot of it, but let me read it to you. Putting everything in caps letters, should be an auto ban. Like, why do that? Why are you writing everything? It's hard to read things in cap letters. Like, do you want people to not read your comment? Does it mean you're shouting? It means you're really angry? Like, think about what the fuck you're doing, right? Like, because of me being dyslexic and lazy, if I put comments down, I have a problem with voice to text and then not proofreading it. So, I'm not like somebody who's like obsessed with grammar and all these things, but, just stop with the fucking caps letters. Everyone involved in these hoaxes should be in prison, crisis management, role play actors, the air-powered blood squid, professional SPSF prosthetics, hyper-realistic, life simulation, trauma, crisis actors, central casting. You can't put people in prison just because they're fucking... You got to go through like some kind of a court system thing, right? Yeah, they should all be in prison. They're all doing criminal shit. But like that's... so what? Like, yeah, we all think they should be. But oftentimes we don't know. Like, they have to go through like a fact process and have legal representation and both sides of the story have to come out. Like, there's just, layers to everything, right? Like, people say that, but you're only saying it based in limited information of a show that is, basically an illusion. So I had to scroll down quite a bit. There's 5-minute gaps between 10, this was probably 10 minutes. But you guys don't experience it because, the recorder's not on the mic. But I had to scroll down because I saw this comment yesterday and I meant to take a screenshot of it. Pockets of the Future is a show. Candace is a show. The government is a show. Let's not be too hard on Candace for having a show. Jesus Christ. She's like, all these comments are all, doing the same thing. Like, you're trying to think. You're trying to come up with your own opinion. It's just that you suck at it, right? Like, I don't know how you get better. I mean, maybe practice and having some, reality-based kind of consciousness. But Candace is basically implying that all Charlie Kirk's friends and family members and people, wife and co-workers and, Republican Party and Trump and the country of France and, Israel used to be and Egyptian planes and all these people are responsible and complicit in the murder of Charlie Kirk, right? And she says horrible things about all the people. And so she deserves the same level of scrutiny for her hypocrisy and bullshit. This isn't about having a show or not. It's about whether the show is good, and her show sucks, right? I hope you're not comparing my show to her show, because I think my show is a lot better. I think my show is a lot more truthful, a lot, more enlightening. Like, I'm not saying I have the best show or even a good show, but it's certainly better than Candace Owens. And so you can't compare the two. And so her show sucks. She's annoying. And it's, it's not that it's just full of lies. It's just bad. Like, it's that Alex Jones model is just worn out, and the talking points and the rest of it. Okay. So there's a comment here I didn't see. Apparently I haven't looked at these comments in days. I'm not sure how Mitch thing has been proven fake. All he did was say he pretty sure he saw Charlie Kirk's bodyguard at a top brass meeting 7:30 at Fort Huachuca and Erica Kirk and Cabot Phillips the night prior in the lobby of the Candlewood Inn in Suisse on the base. There's a verified report his estranged son confirmed on Paramount Tactical that the military police had called him. Again, it has nothing to do whether he's at the base or not, right? Because just because you're there doesn't mean everything you say about what happened there is true. And so he's obviously a lying, fake piece of shit, right? We've seen the guy, he's ridiculous. But aside from that, it's just a made-up story by a guy who's obviously a grifter. And these, and all the things that I've showed. I mean, I don't know how much this person's seen. But why would you ever believe that guy? He's not a reliable source. Like, he's a crackpot that people would throw out of the building. Even if he was telling the truth, it doesn't play well. Like, it's irresponsible to put people like that out there that are not believable. You can take someone who's schizophrenic, and they might have seen something, but they're still schizophrenic, right? So, they're not going to be a good witness, right? They're not going to be somebody that is believable, because they're just, somebody who's psychologically fragile and emotionally fragile and has a long history of grifting. You ever heard the story of the boy who cried fucking wolf, right? The boy who cried Mitch, or the boy who cried, what was the guy's name here? Whatever that guy's name who was the fucking security guard. The chief security guard for Charlie Kirk. And so Erica Kirk and Cabot Phillips, are they dating? Is she dating that guy again already? Is that, And so, that's what they want to put together here. So it's just silly. Paramount Tactical, the military police had called him on file as the next of kin while being detained. He was being detained. Does that make any fucking... the guy's being detained. He wasn't a celebrity. He wasn't somebody they were letting into a classified room where they were planning a secret fucking plot to murder Charlie Kirk, right? The thing's silly. You're just a silly person. Again, you're trying to think for yourself. For some reason, instead of disproving his memory recall, they're attacking Candace for having him on because he's shady. Instead of offering up these alibis for the dates that aren't in question or with evidence. This is manipulatable, not concrete, flimsy at best. Candace Owens is the epitome of flimsy at best. the fucking Egyptian planes. And again, how many of you guys actually fact check what she's saying? When she says that she has fucking resources, or she has people, she has witnesses, she has corroborated witnesses, she has documents. It's just the Alex Jones model. You just fucking lap it up, right? Again, she herself was saying she was praying for something legitimate, and she got Mitch fucking Snow. Like, that's, she's saying that, that's what God delivered to her, and she went along with it because of it. So he's the one who has to prove they're at the base, right? Isn't up to them to prove. Like, they haven't, even if they were at the base, doesn't mean that they were committing a crime, right? None of those people have to answer any of these questions. Nobody's doing official police investigation. It's just a bunch of fucking dopes on the internet, and Candace Owens is leading those dopes, in a way where they all think they're thinking for themselves, and she's just puppeting the shit out of them as she rolls into these, she rolls and celebrates her attention, right? It's like she has, the equivalent of throwing money all over the bed and rolling around in it. Like every time she gets her podcast up to one of the top spots, she's celebrating how fucking stupid you guys all are. Not concrete, flimsy at best. Now that I said that, I'm legitimately asking, what did I miss? I'm not interested in following lies or following a cult personality. Also, it's not Candace's job to prove it. She's merely a podcaster, barely an investigative journalist. It's law enforcement's job to prove it, and they have not. Well, of course, yeah, they're not going to do that. So what the fuck are you talking about? You're missing everything. Stop thinking. Go back. Just go back to being a sheeple, right? All you guys, everyone who's left these comments, if you're still listening to me, go back to being a sheeple. You're not ready for this shit, right? Fuck. You're not ready for any of these kind of things. Okay, so let me wrap this one up here. Only spirituality will save this world. It's paramount, definitely important for the apocalypse and the ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.